Tomorrow's not Thursday.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Yak podcast. This is our second episode of the week. Last episode, we actually recorded a Bengals episode previewing the Super Bowl. And speaking of the Super Bowl, we have Arsenal fans, also owned by Stan Kroenke. Hopefully, Arsenal has the same success as the Rams in the near future. But how you doing, Khalid?
Yeah, man, glad to be back. Repping Ajax today, though.
Yeah, it's a sweet jersey. How you doing, Azeem?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I'm good, man. I'm good.
And you live in Scotland, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, Glasgow. So I'm very much the minority here. Everyone else is English, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
But I think we discussed this last time about like how we became fans of our specific teams. What was your story?
Not really like a story as such. I just remember growing up watching like a ton of sort of Premier League football. I remember there was like really sort of heated matches between United and Arsenal at the time, and you would see like Wenger and Ferguson, bus stops in the touchline and stuff. And it was that kind of that rivalry and that sort of passion really sort of drew me in, and the style of Arsenal and stuff, and the way Arsenal Wenger would set his teams up, it was something I thought, this is actually pretty cool. And yeah, it just sort of became like a progressive thing from there. So yeah, like I said, not really a story, and like Shahid obviously was conceived at the COP, famously, so nothing quite as extravagant as that. But yeah, man, that's how I got into Arsenal.
Were you always in Scotland?
I was born here, but I moved to Hong Kong for about 7 years, 8 years, before coming back here. So yeah, I've got a family in Hong Kong and stuff, so I was there for a while. But yeah, it's funny because over there, it's like all my cousins are like all Man United fans, and it's just like Asia's just dominated by Man United fans. Then you come here and my cousin, like Zoni, in fact, probably spoke to him on the group and stuff. There's pictures of him, even though he's a diehard Liverpool fan. There's pictures of him as a kid, like a Man United top, and it's just like sort of blackmail material in case anything ever comes out. It's total blasphemy, but yeah, he's a Liverpool through and through.
I feel like Scottish influence is mostly in Liverpool, right?
I don't think I'm trying to think of any other Liverpool fans. I mean, it's kind of a mix. Like you'll find, Man United fans, a few Arsenal fans and stuff. It seems to be quite a general mix, but it just seems to me when I lived in Hong Kong, it used to be majority of people, cousins especially, were just all diehard United fans. Some of them still are, unfortunately, but that's their loss.
But yeah, I mean, speaking of Arsenal, us three are all Arsenal fans. A United fan and Liverpool fan will join us in a moment. But I think the main story from Arsenal was obviously the transfer window. Nothing really happening besides like a goalkeeper from Colorado, the U.S. goalkeeper, was Matt Turner, and then another center back from MLS. I think that's just funding Stan Kroenke's pockets, a little cash here and there.
He could probably never play for us. It's like a straight up money laundering.
Yeah, I guess we'll start with Azeem. What do you think of the window? And I feel like, did you expect anything else?
I think expect's a strong word when it comes to Arsenal transfers. It's there was a desire for a little bit more up front, obviously, but in a way, I'm glad they got rid of a lot of the just a drossy players that are just there, either on the bench or in the background, just picking up wages but not contributing anything. Not really. You could say they give you squad depth, but they weren't ever really going to get much game time at Arsenal. So it was something that needed to be done. It would have been good to do it and replace, some of them with upgrades at the same time. But I think the biggest talking point is obviously the Aubameyang situation, right? With him sort of going on a free. Personally, I think just from him in general, I think he's been a great servant to the club. I think he's done really well for us since he's played for us. Whatever happened to him and Arteta, we might never know. It might come out in the Amazon documentary, so it'll be good to keep an eye on that. But Yeah, I think. Listen, we signed him when he was what, 28, 29. I think for those sort of initial 3 year period did well. A couple of FA Cups, but yeah, I think he was starting to not be as prolific for Arsenal, and then he had a couple other issues, personal issues with sort of some family health, some of his own health with malaria and stuff and COVID. So yeah, I think there was a bunch of factors in his form, but it's not so much the issue of him going; it's the issue of him not being replaced. Like there was links with Vlahovic, there was links with like Calvert-Lewin and Isak and stuff, but I feel like if they'd even replaced, for example, Eddie Nketiah is going to go right in the summer. His contract's up. Lacazette's going to go probably. Unless you do an Arsenal thing and give him a 4-year extension at like 300 grand a week, he's probably going to go. So you'd like to think if you can't replace Aubameyang, at least replace Nketiah, or Lacazette or someone like that tier of striker. But yeah, I've got this nagging feeling in the back of my head that we're gonna suffer with the lack of goals in terms of the transfer window. I feel like we've got someone in, even on loan. There's talks Jovic coming on loan. I feel like he could have offered us something, an option off the bench. Right now, it's Lacazette, or if he gets injured, then we're just fully relying on Nketiah. So it's a big risk to take, man. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see when summer comes if it's paid off or not.
Oh, do you think Arteta trusts the youngsters that much, or you think it was like a failure on Edu's part?
I guess for the end of the season we'll be able to tell properly, but it does feel like an opportunity missed. I think the way we've been playing and the way the teams around us have been playing, top 4 seems within reach. We just needed to strengthen that a little bit this window. Aubameyang, to be honest, it felt like he might never return to the team. I think it's fair to say he was in decline, and this season when he's not been in the team, we played better. So I think most of us were resigned to the fact that he's probably gonna move on, even if he was to stay. I don't know if there can be a way back from him, given Arteta's track record of situations like that. But like Azeem said, Lacazette and Nketiah being your only 2 recognised strikers in the squad, like Lacazette's doing a good job, but we all know like Lacazette isn't the best of athletes. He's kind of barely on his feet 75 minutes into a match. So
he uses behind more than he uses his feet.
I mean, he uses it well. Like I do like the way he drops in and what he brings to our game, but ideally, you'd want someone that can do that, but also be able to get into the box and have end product. I feel like Nketiah, I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's good for us in the way we play. Like whenever he plays for us, he just looks, lost at sea. Like we're not a team that's creating loads of chances across the 6-yard box for him to tap in. It's all about like the runs beyond from wide places and dropping in and getting involved. He's not the best at hold up play and, engaging big centre backs. Like it's not his game. And I think, I don't know, that I almost think about Nketiah as like almost nothing player, but barely. If you really need to get a goal last minute and you're just lumping the strikers on and just putting the ball in the box, maybe then he's handy. But in a proper 90-minute Premier League game, I feel like he's lost. It's almost like you're playing with a man light, just because the way we play doesn't utilize his skill set at all. So yeah, I was kind of hoping. I guess when the news was breaking on the final day about Aubameyang, I was like, okay, the fact they've moved all these guys and now they're moving Aubameyang, they're definitely going to bring in a striker now. There's no way they could have let it, surely not. And then the hours were ticking by. It got to like 8 p.m. and we hadn't been linked with anyone that day. We're like, oh no, God. And it's just like the sinking feeling of like, okay, it's like Lacazette or bust. That's our season now. And I don't know. I mean, like midfield, I felt like maybe we could have done with some reinforcements, but at the end of the day, we've got 4 senior midfielders like in Partey, Xhaka, Lokonga, and Elneny that can do. We've only got 7. Out of every competition, there's only 17 games left. I guess that's also maybe the justification to not bring anyone else in, not make a big signing or a high risk signing. Like you're always going to overpay in January for a striker.
Yeah, it's going to be like 75 million probably.
Yeah, so Isak was the main one, right? And I really like his profile as a player, but again, like he's not having a very good season. He's got 4 goals so far this season. So, he's not proven prolific striker over a period of time. He had a good season last season. And he's got attributes, but you're paying for potential. And when you're paying for potential, like if you look at in summer, the highest we paid was for Ben White. And that's because he had that, English Premier League premium homegrown tax on him, right? He probably was 30, 35 million player. We're paying 50 million for because he's English, etc. But paying 75 million for a striker who scored 4 goals this season, and you're still not sure if he's going to really push on, or if he's going to be able to adapt to the Premier League. Maybe we thought that risk is too high. I guess as fans, like, we care less about if they're going to spend the money. I don't care if you're spending 20 million pounds, 50 million pounds. It's going to be for a good player, but at the same time, I think it's harder to, like, for Edu, for example, if he was to make that signing and it doesn't work out, he probably have to go, right? Like, so maybe he didn't want to take that risk. I don't know if it's maybe it was his own self-preservation and his own self-interest that he didn't make any signings. But like you said, Lacazette and Keita both out of contract in the summer. You've got to think, so that's what we need to bring in 2 senior strikers this summer. Like, it's going to be crazy. But I mean, I was quite looking forward to the big push we make for the end of the season with our shiny new signings. But instead, we just got a depleted squad and like limited numbers. So we'll see. At least United aren't firing. So
is Giroud available?
He's still doing it, isn't he? He's got 2 goals to win the Milan derby on the weekend, right? Like,
yeah.
The guy was, I guess, when you're a player whose game does not depend on mobility or speed, right, and just be, being kind of stationary and linking up play. Like, maybe you've got a long career, so he's still doing it, right? It's not like he's had to even adapt his game. He's probably playing the exact same game he was playing when he was doing well for us. He was always just a good professional. I wouldn't mind a Giroud right now, to be honest. Just someone that could do something a bit different and offer us some different type of threat. I mean, it's intriguing to see what we do this season. Like, the rest of the season, is Martinelli going to play a bit more central? Or are we going to try different things? I don't know. Or are we just going to really rely on the same strong 11, put it out every week, and hope that things work out? Look, they showed in the summer they made some good decisions, good signings, and they've been, they've been proven right, I guess. So maybe they'll get proven right again. We'll see. But less hopeful than I would have been had we made at least 1 or 2 signings. But
on the side, I just wanted to welcome Leon. He just joined us as a United expert. How you doing, man?
Hi, happy to be here. It took a lot to put on the shirt, trust me, after that. It's like a really timely podcast. It's good though. It's fine. It's all good. Positivity.
What felt worse, the Middlesbrough or this?
This, by far. It's the bottom of the league team. We usually have quite a good record against Burnley as well. And it's bad. It's really bad. And I think Maguire's got a lot of flack, but after seeing that game, it's hard to defend him. It really is. No pun intended.
But yeah,
I mean, centre back in the world, isn't he? Of all time.
No, it's funny because you see his England form, and you'd think that, honestly, when you see him against England in the last tournament, right? Honestly, excellent. He was good. But for some reason, I think with the way the Premier League's played and the sort of pace in the Premier League where we play a high line pressing, it's the World Cup and international games are a lot more relaxed. It gives him a lot more time on the ball. So I think he actually turns up a bit better when he's playing internationally. But in Premier League, I think it's too much for him, too much pace, too much power, too much trickery, and he's not really mobile. If you compare him to someone like Van Dijk, for example, he's built for the Premier League. Like, he's agile, he's mobile, he's tall, and he's powerful. But Maguire's just too clumsy. What's his name? Rodriguez, not the fastest player in the world, but he twisted and turned him, couldn't catch him. I mean, it's hard. If you're a top 4 centre back, you can't be getting twisted and turned by Rodriguez. But
somehow he always ends up in the
slab head.
Yeah.
It just offsets the gravity, right? So he turns the ball and correct himself.
He's 29. He's not going to get any better, right? He's 29 years old. He's only going to decline from here. So he's not going to get faster. He's not going to improve his defensive awareness. he's not going to improve as a player. He's going to be stuck in his ways. So I think we've actually kind of brought dead weight. And the fact is, because he's our captain, that puts us in a quite a tricky situation, because you can't really drop the captain without creating unrest in the changing room. I think that's what Ragnick's seeing. I don't think he'll be picked for the next game. I mean, Ragnick, he dropped Ronaldo for this game. I think he will carry on in the same vein, but I think that will have a very negative effect on the sort of dressing room. But I think that's the right decision to make. He has to be dropped. I mean, we've got better centre-back pairings.
At the same time, though, right? Like, I'm surprised that Maguire's the main one you've been digging out, because often you only scored one goal against Burnley, right? Scored one goal against Middlesbrough. Like, look, considering the attacking talent that this United team has, how is it you're like? I've watched a few of the games recently. Like, United's attacking play is dead. It is it's so painful to watch. Like, predictable and like just unimaginable. Considering the guys you've got on your team, like, what's that about, man?
Well, yeah, I was watching it today, right? And I saw what I see. We've got pockets of great players. Like, I like Dalot, Sancho plays really well. Pogba is world class. Brain's world class. But we haven't really got a strong spine. And I think any team to allow, it starts from the back and it starts from the spine. You have to have confidence in your defense, or the attacking players. One, they're not going to get service, and two, everyone's always tracking back a bit too much to cover for our defensive frailties. So we're not really pushing up as much as like other teams. Like Man City is a great example. Their formation isn't really that defensive. They've got a lot of midfielders, a lot of attackers, but they've got such a good spine and such a good defense that their attackers have the confidence to push forward. And the way they move as well, in like a unit across the pitch, it allows for that kind of play. But where our players, Maguire doesn't have the pace. So we have usually used to have McTominay and Fred tracking back a lot to cover up for our centre backs. Lindelof at that stage wasn't very good as well. So when Lindelof and Maguire were playing together, it was even worse. Lindelof's actually improved a lot. But I think Maguire sticks out like a sore thumb, especially next to Varane. Varane like makes everything amazing. Like, he's just, everything's so easy. And I just think we need someone more pace. Like, Eric Bailly was good, but he's a bit prone to error. I think Lindelof, before he had his issues with the burglary, I think he would have been a good pairing with with Varane. But that's an 80 million hole just like stuck there. The board, I doubt will let that happen. And that's the thing with Manchester United, and that comes to the same thing where we're an American brand. We're not really a football club. We're not owned by owners who want to actually win games. We're not owned by like billionaires who are like basically competing against the billionaire mates like Abramovich, Qatar, and Saudi princes who don't care about the money. They just want, it's about their reputation. Whereas Glazers trying to make money out of us. So we pick these players based on their brand. Oh, he's English centre back. It might be crap, and it could be someone much better than him with a lower brand, but we'll go for him. We'll go for the English centre back. And we see that a lot. But I think we need to. Some of these players need to go.
We were talking about transfers before you hopped on, but were you surprised that they didn't get anybody? Especially in midfield.
No, I'm not surprised, I'm not surprised. And the reason I'm not surprised is because I think basically when Rangnick joined, right, the whole reason everyone was like so excited about Rangnick is because we were sold that he's this guy that's going to come in, transform the club, he's going to move upstairs, so he'll be able to basically come in and say, oh, these players are rubbish, just get rid of them, identify some talent in Germany that we might not have heard from, like from Wolfsburg or Leipzig, and these kind of have that kind
of got
Weghorst. Weghorst looked good. He looked like a proper centre forward, didn't he? I almost put him in my fantasy team, actually. I took him out last minute. But but I mean, we could have gone for Zakaria, for example. Zakaria went to Juve. Zakaria was like, what was it, a free transfer in the summer? We could have gone for a few million. Why did we go for Zakaria? It's because we're angling for Declan Rice, because Declan Rice is the bigger brand. Probably not as good as a player, to be honest with you. Like,
oh no, he's really good. Declan Rice is sick. Declan Rice is so good.
But he's probably definitely going to be overrated compared to Zakaria.
Yeah, I guess so. But he's
especially
really
in terms of price.
Yeah, in terms of stats wise, Zakaria is the just behind whoever's the top in the Bundesliga in terms of completed passes, in terms of tackles. He was like one of the top in the Bundesliga. That's why Juve picked him up. So stats wise, they're probably similar, if not Zakaria is better. So what makes Declan Rice better is because we've been exposed to him more and he's a no name. That's all it is, really. And we're going to spend over the odds and his price isn't going to increase when we buy 100 mil. He's only going to go down. So is that good business? Is that what Liverpool do? Is that what, I mean, even Arsenal with Ramsdale and things like that? Like it's much better to buy players that can increase in value and actually appreciate your club, but we don't do that.
I think we're like both of our teams are kind of competing for Champions League, and we both didn't really do anything. But I guess you guys have a little bit more proven squad. Like you guys definitely had higher expectations than us.
Yeah, we did. I think it's been obvious that we need to improve in the midfield. That got totally ignored. We did get rid of some players, but there weren't even players that it's good to get rid of. So getting rid of Martial, for example. I mean, okay, he wanted to leave, but there's other players we should be moving on ahead of him. We didn't get rid of Lingard, and that's obviously caused more unrest. And then we didn't bring anyone to lift the dressing room as well. So at the moment,
now you've got Greenwood indefinitely as well, right?
Who? Sorry?
Now Greenwood's out for God knows how long, right? Like,
Yeah, he's done.
and he was playing a lot until then, right? So
You think Greenwood leaving was part of the reason they kept Lingard?
They
Probably.
say that, but I mean, I think that
I think it was more about not strengthening a rival. Like West Ham are a rival for top 4, right? So you don't want him to go there.
Newcastle, right?
And then Newcastle came in as well. Maybe Newcastle is also a rival. But
Newcastle looked good today.
Not taking.
Yeah, no, they're improving. So yeah, so Newcastle are improving. But I think keeping someone that doesn't want to be there, someone who got lied to last year by Solskjaer when he kept him on, when he had a great second half season at West Ham, and looking at England prospects, and Solskjaer said, "No, you're going to be in our squad." Completely lied to. His head's down. He's not going to turn it around. And because the thing is, like with football, a lot of this is mental, right? It's a lot of this is to do with how people react and how people behave. And a toxic dressing room, you can just have 1, 2, 3 not bad apples, but people are like disenfranchised with the club, and it will affect the whole squad. So keeping people like that definitely don't want to be there, like Martial, Lingard. They're going to be near other players. They're going to be, kind of reacting badly to training, having a bit of attitude in the manager. I think if someone doesn't want to be there, it's better to get rid of them. Like that's what Arsenal did with Aubameyang, and I think that was an excellent move. And I think some managers show a bit more steel. I think Arteta's great for that. I think he's shown a great hand when he's had any sort of conflicts in the dressing room. But we seem to kind of bend to player power a bit and not really look at that side of things. We look at branding and on
that branding thing. Question for you, Leon. Right, I feel like the biggest branding move you guys made this last year was Ronaldo. Right, like that was a huge commercially. If he went to Man City, that would have been terrible for Man United. They had to make that signing. Yeah. Would you say, on balance, halfway through the season, was it a good deal, or do you think it's actually throwing out the balance of the squad?
You know what? That's a really good question. I love Ronaldo, right? But one thing I've noticed, I don't think I've actually spoken about, is I think Ronaldo joining had quite a negative impact on the younger. Well, I don't say young players. I'm talking about Rashford and Greenwood, right? So I think what the assumption was is that we've got this experience forward coming in. He's going to help the younger players, and they're all going to copy his ways of working. But I think what you can see on the pitch is, one, Rashford wants to be a striker. He doesn't want to be a winger. So I actually think, I don't think it's to do with his charity and everything. I think he's not playing in the position he wants to be. And he was playing quite good as a striker. I remember him scoring against PSG. He was kind of on the rise. He's kind of stunted that part for Rashford. And obviously Greenwood, I think Greenwood doesn't really respect Ronaldo in that way. I think he sees him a rival. And the way Ronaldo plays, it kind of demands everyone to play for him. You see that in Portugal as well, and all the teams he's been for. So unless they're completely looking to, I say build a team around Ronaldo, but can you do that for a mid-30s-year-old player? But if you completely change your playing style for Ronaldo and build a team geared towards making it work for him, or it's not going to work. You kind of people like even Fernandes, right? He's taken a back seat when he was really excelling as like a top player in the club. And it's hard to ignore the Ronaldo impact. I think things like bad intentions, but I think bringing someone with such an ego, such a presence, and I think that's definitely destabilized the dressing room.
because like the stuff you described that we thought he'd be, like that senior pro that guys can learn. That's what I feel like Cavani is, and he actually like exemplifies that, right? Like the way he works, and like like I feel when he plays as well, like you can see like this guy is trying hard, and he's like working for the team, and like it's that kind of attitude that kind of encourages everyone to play well. But I feel like Ronaldo almost seems like the exact opposite of that, and like just sucks the life out of everyone around him.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case.
Disappointed every time they do something. You know what I mean? Like,
but I'm sure he motivates the players for sure, though. Like the players are like all the players know him as the legend. Obviously, he's not like as good anymore, but when he played at Real Madrid, he also had Cruz, Casemiro, and Modric behind him. And like it's the whole team effort that helps him score. But I feel like it depended what United did with the other option as well. Like you can't just have Cavani as your main striker like for the whole season. You have to have another guy behind him, or actually in front of him.
You know what? That's the thing. Just on your first point around how the players react to him, the thing that's changed culturally at Manchester United, right? So with but when you're a big club and you're winning things, when players come to your club and players in your club, they respect you as a club. And if you've got big personalities in that club who are winners, other players will respect you and fall in line. Now, the thing is, we haven't won anything in a long time. We're not even really respected in football in terms of respected from a money and branding kind of side, that type of thing. But from like if you go to Real Madrid, you automatically respect Real Madrid. Even Barcelona, and they're doing rubbish at the moment. Like a new winning side like Liverpool, Man City, you respect them. There's not that respect at United. So you get someone like Ronaldo coming in, remembering the old ways of United, saying, "Come on, you're playing for the badge, you're doing this." These young players don't care. They don't even respect the club they play for. They don't care. Maguire used to be in a Leicester team that used to beat us. Like these guys don't care. There's no one. And if you criticize any of these players, what's happened a lot, you see Rashford getting slightly criticised, or he has to come out in a press conference and apologise. I mean, could you imagine Fergie ever doing that? Can you imagine Roy Keane ever doing that? Even the Jesse Lingard thing, which was like Rangnick didn't even say anything wrong. He has to come out and put a tweet out and like, all this undermining. So, and if you remember that Ronaldo interview, he pretty much said it. He says, "Look, I'm trying to tell these kids, give them advice. They don't want to hear it." I think he was directing that at Mason Greenwood, personally. But I think there's a big lack of respect, like for the club with our players. And I also think, which is even worse, and you can see it every time we step out on the pitch, I don't think any other club in the Premier League respects us. I think when they play us, they smell blood. They're like, yeah, this is the brand United, and we can get a bit of a scalp here because they're doable,
Yeah, I mean the media definitely overrates them a little bit. Just because they're the brand, they've been the biggest team the past 20 years or whatever. But Azeem, I wanted to get your thoughts on the race for top 4, which is like I feel like it's more interesting than the title race right now.
Yeah, I mean you said earlier it's like the main 2 teams, probably 3 I would say, is going for that 4th spot is obviously United, Arsenal, and West Ham at this point. It's funny, as much as I hate talking about Spurs, they actually are probably in the best position based on games in hand. I think they've still got 3 games in hand compared to West Ham, and 2 on who's after us? United. So basically, if Spurs win all of their games, which obviously hope they won't, they'll actually be in that top 4 spot. But then again, you can always count the Spurs to Spurs it up, so I'm not too worried about that. I would say in terms of our current position, I think if we win the next game, which is Brentford, we will overtake United and West Ham actually. So yeah. So
Wolves,
basically, we still have
Wolves and then Brentford and then Wolves again.
Yeah, Wolves and Brentford and then Wolves. So basically, I would say in terms of where we are just now in the league and within touching distance of top 4, it's ahead of where I would have expected us to be at this point in the season. I would have said at the start of the season, realistic expectation should be top 6, based on the squad, based on the rebuilding project, based on our 2 previous back-to-back 8th place finishes. I think 6th place would have been a modest but manageable expectation. The fact that we're in amongst the top 4 I'd say we're ahead of where many people would have thought we'd be at this point. But it kind of adds to the frustration that sort of Khalid touched on earlier, was if we just sign that sort of star striker or someone up front who could give us a bit more of a push, we would actually challenge properly for the top four. You have a bit more confidence going for that race. But as it stands, unless the sort of wide forwards like Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, unless they keep up the input, which I think it's unrealistic. I think they've had a really good one, especially in December. They did really well, contributing towards the sort of end product. Odegaard, probably one of my favourite signings from last summer, did really well in terms of actually getting on the score sheet, getting assists in. I think it's unfair to expect them to keep going for the rest of the season. I mean, I know it's only 17 games to go. There's no other cup competitions, but unless the teams around us keep dropping points the way they have been, I think we'll struggle to maintain any real level of consistency. I think we've got some tough fixtures coming up in about a month or so, and I feel like we're probably going to drop points where we expect to drop points. So yeah, top four, obviously, I think it would be a great thing for Arteta, for the team to accomplish at this point. And someone's famous words would be like a trophy. But in reality, I think top six is more manageable. And if you fast forward to say next season, if we do make the Europa League, I think that would be a more appropriate sort of level for us to play in within Europe. I think it would possibly be a step too far too quickly if we say we get in top four, we get in Champions League, start next season, unless we recruit heavily in the summer to bolster the squad depth, to add some more, I would say first 11 players. We're gonna struggle in that competition. Whereas I think with the current squad, with the current core, if you add a few players, summer level, increase the quality of our squad players, I think we would do well in the Europa League, and then build from there. But yeah, there's been a lot of damage done. I would say towards the end of Wenger's reign, Emery coming in doing what he did, and even some of the bad runs that we've had under Arteta. So a lot of rebuilding to be done. But from what I've seen, especially recently, in terms of the state of the squad, it's in a much better position, much better shape. But I would maintain top six end of the season. I would take it. Top four obviously would be a massive bonus. But yeah, I think it's one of those ones where we kind of need other teams to do us a favour along the way as well.
Rebuilding even coming from Arsenal though.
Say again?
Where do you see that rebuild coming from Arsenal though? Because I don't see Arsenal as a team that really invests in their squad that heavily. I know spent a bit of money on Ramsdale and was it Ben White, but compared to the other teams,
we spent the most in the last summer transfer window. It was like 150 million or something. Yeah, and I would say at the time it looked like some of them were first teamers, some of them were sort of squad players, but it looks like most of them have actually slotted into the first team. When you look at Ramsdale, you look at Ben White, you look at Tomiyasu, and even if you go one summer prior to that, you got Partey, you got Partey was the window as well. It was Gabriel the window before that. So that's a significant amount of investment. The only ones that we haven't invested in really that have come up through the ranks is our forward. Like when we look at Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli was maybe 3 seasons ago, and he was relatively cheap. I think he came from Ituano, like maybe 6 million or something. And he's been sort of in the background, sort of churning away and up in his game. But yeah, I think the next investment I would see within Arsenal has to be the front line has to be specifically a striker, if not 2 strikers, considering one's already left and 2 more contracts are up in the summer. So you realistically 2 strikers, and ideally a centre mid to sort of partner and party in the middle of the park, because Jack is as good as he is. I know he kind of splits opinions amongst fans. I think ability-wise, there's some question about what he can do, what he has done. It's more the decision-making that's let him down numerous times in the past. And I think his age, etc., he's not going to get any better at what he does in terms of making certain decisions. So if, for example, someone like Roma come calling again for him in the summer, I wouldn't be surprised if we let him go. But yeah, I would say centre mid and and a couple of strikers has to be short. So you've got other than squad players where you need to sort of try and fill in, like say right back, you've got Tommy Yasu, but now here you've got Cedric Suarez, and he's just the fall off in quality between the two players. It's frightening. The difference.
Saliba coming back in the summer.
You've got Saliba coming back, yeah. But I mean, just in that right back part, it's really telling that when Tommy Yasu was injured, instead of playing Cedric Suarez there, he put Ben White there. Do you know what I mean? He'd rather sort of play him at right back and bring Holding in at centre back than play an actual dedicated right back. But yeah, centre back, I just say we're not too bad there in terms of our two starting centre backs seem to be getting a good sort of partnership going. Saliba would add some genuine competition in that area. Left back, we're pretty covered. Tavares coming. He's not as much backup as he is actually, I would say, competition for Tierney. I think he's shown that he's actually very, very good in terms of his potential, in terms of energy. He's very attacking minded. He's in a good cross and he just keeps going. He's got no fear. I think that's great for that position. But in the middle of the park, I feel like there is something missing. On the wings, you've got players that are very interchangeable, which is good. So you've got on the left, you can either play Martinelli or Smith Rowe. On the right, you can play Saka or you can play Pepe. Pepe can also play on the left. In the middle, you've got Smith Rowe or you can play Odegaard. So there's a lot of interchangeability in that three. But then up front, you're kind of starved of options. So yeah, and he's not really playing a striker's role these days. He's kind of more sort of dropping deep, linking up play, bringing the wider players into the attack, which obviously it's by design. It's to cater as much to the wide player's strengths as to his own weakness in terms of when it comes to stamina and not being able to just not got legs, to last, like you say, the full 90, and I would say even 60, 70 minutes. He's kind of done. So sort of modifying his role, bringing him a little bit deeper, linking up play. It's almost Giroud-esque, the way he would sort of drop a little bit deeper, have little flicks around the corner, have runners going off him. But really we need someone a bit more mobile, a bit more sort of pace able to get in behind, which I think it would be interesting to see if they trial Martinelli in that role, because he definitely has great attributes. I think he's very quick, he's tricky, he's good with dribbling, close control, he's got quality finish on him, very clinical. It's just he's unproven in that role, because I think he's only had 2 games out at the start of the season, both of which were fairly uninspiring against Brentford and City. But start of the season, 2 games, very small sample size. So I think in the background, I feel like Arteta is kind of molding him into that kind of role. He might be in a position where maybe we buy one, star striker, and then we have Martinelli as a left wing / striker backup. But I would say in terms of strength, it has to be striker, it has to be centre mid, because the other boy who actually mentioned it is Lokonga, who's also very good, but I still feel like he's a bit raw for the Prem.
Yeah,
I think it's another season or so just to have some cup games, some like 10-20 minutes at the end of a game to actually get himself up to speed with the technical side of things. But we've got a nailed on starter in Partey. It's just about who joins him in the middle of that park. And as much as I think Jack and Partey works a lot of the time, I feel like it can't be that difficult to upgrade Xhaka when considering where he is just now in his career, and considering where we need sort of Arsenal to move through, be a bit more dynamic in the middle of the park. So yeah, that's what I would like to see. And that's what I think that's kind of why I'm seeing a glass half full in terms of they haven't bought anyone, because they didn't find the exact player they wanted, right? So they didn't want to just compromise and bring in somebody and then be like, well, who the hell is this guy? Do you know what I mean? Be like, bring him in Kim Kallstrom or something, do you know what I mean? Or like a Dennis Suarez, for just bringing him for the sake of bringing someone in, but they don't contribute. And so looking at glass half full, we've got a short list, but they wait until the summer.
Yeah, so say for example, you said that you think it would be sensible to go for Europa League, right? Going into the Champions League, I don't think it's all about, smashing it and getting the trophy. A lot of it's about attracting new players, and I think it would be very difficult for Arsenal to attract the level of player that you want. And we've had this before when we've been out in Champions League, without being in that Champions, that kind of lucrative competition. And especially if we start to see the way the Premier League shaping up, going from a top 6 to a top 8 basically now. I think the current squad, if I look at Arsenal, I mean, we've got bigger names, right? But if you looked at it on paper at the start of the season, I think on paper, Arsenal has probably the weakest squad out of the top 6. You've performed, I think you've overachieved with Arteta based on your squad. And I think, some people have come through, younger players, and it's worked. But I'm not sure how sustainable that is without attracting some proper talent.
Yeah, they definitely have to, get. Obviously, they're betting on younger players to get better, and I think they do. They are like showing that they're good enough to eventually be at that level. But I think I have a dream that Odegaard's going to recruit Haaland once we get that top 4.
But I need to drop off.
Okay.
Maybe you guys can talk about who's going to win the title. None of the teams that we care about.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Cheers.
Yeah, I mean, United's actually still in the Champions League. They made it to the round of 16 with some lucky goals from Ronaldo, I guess. And not so lucky, but I guess end of regulation. But you have a big matchup against Atletico. Arsenal's out of all the cups. So how do you think that's going to affect your season?
I think that match is coming at the wrong time. We're probably at our lowest. Maybe not our lowest. I think 6-0. I can't remember what it was. Was it 6-0? Was it 6-1? I can't remember that anymore.
The Liverpool game?
Liverpool. Yeah. I'm trying to erase that from my memory, but that's probably our lowest point. I think morale-wise, I think it's probably our squad's way our squad works with each other and gets on as a team. I think that's probably the worst we've had for a while. And Atletico are a tough bunch of players, man. They've got a really strong mentality, strong coach. And I think actually he's probably got the perfect counter to Ragnick's style. He'll soak up that pressure, very defensive coach and quite aggressive as well. And the way our mentality is, I just don't see us being Atletico, to be honest with you. I'd be surprised if we do. I think it'll be tough. I mean, unless and Ronaldo is on the worst form of his life, and he's probably our biggest weapon against Simeone and Atletico. And he's like, if you saw the game today, his head was obviously got dropped, but he looks like he's signed out mentally. And that's a lot for Ronaldo. But I feel like there's a thing going around the fandom as well that we make players worse. And I feel like the players that came to our club with Sancho, Varane's still doing okay, but Ronaldo, Fernandes, the players that you expect to win a game against a team like Atletico, they're not performing at that level at the moment. So I think it's going to be difficult. But the thing is, I think if we do get dropped out, then at least we can focus on the league a bit better. I know people say that and it really works out, but I'm not sure that we're ready for an extended run in the Champions League, to be honest. And I think we should focus on getting top 4, because if we don't get top 4, that's going to be an absolute nightmare for us. But it might make boards do some action, maybe. But yeah, it's not a good place. I think Atletico are the worst team we could probably face in the Champions League. I mean,
I think it would still be disappointing to lose to them, though. You don't want to force your way out.
Yeah, no, of course. We should try. We're not going to get dropped by Atletico. They don't score many goals, so I think we're okay from that front. It's just whether or not a team like us, who don't create a lot of chances, who want a big attacking team at the moment, are we going to create enough chances to beat Atletico? And it's going to be a low-scoring game. I can see us sneaking something past us. I hope we do win, and I think if we do win, it will give us the lift we need. But if I was a betting man, I'm not sure I'd put a lot on United, to be honest, at this moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, Atletico is basically the best version of Burnley, which is what we kind of saw today, where they kind of struggled to create many big chances.
Well, the Spanish champions, aren't they? The Spanish champions. Yeah. I just don't see us beating the champions of Spain, to be honest with you. I hope we do. I do think I want to see Rangnick in Europe a bit more. I know we had some unconvincing games against, was it Basel or Young Boys or something like that, and he tried a few different things. I wasn't really convinced by him, but he is known for his feats in Europe with Leipzig. So maybe we'll see something. But I mean, look, on current form, I'm not getting my hopes up, to be honest. I've got to be realistic.
Yeah, and then Azeem, we got dropped out of the cups, unfortunately, but I guess that'll help us focus on the league, right?
Well, that's the
theoretically.
That's the thinking, isn't it? That's the sort of the silver lining that we keep telling ourselves, that, well, at least we don't have any distractions now. But what it really means is that we don't have any excuses, that if we fail, we can't point to, oh, well, our schedule was, jam packed and we were playing like 3 times in 8 days or whatever it is. I can't remember who it was the last season. It might have been West Ham that were similar in terms of they had no cup competitions or whatever. They weren't having European football. They actually ended up finishing really strong because they were able to maintain the same squad with, relatively low sort of fatigue, not many injuries that I can think of. And that really helped their league form. In terms of Arsenal, I would say if we had sort of a stronger squad overall, I think yes, that it would sort of make sense where you've got a fuller squad. You can sort of rotate more. You can keep fresher legs for some of the tougher ties or whatever. I think the way it's actually worked out, because we've actually, was it 6 players that we sold or let go over January. I think our reduction in squad depth has kind of negated any sort of benefit that we would have had from having lesser fixtures. Because if it's the same 11 pretty much, and give or take 1 or 2 that we need to put out week after week. So yeah, you could say no midweek fixtures and stuff, but in reality, when you have midweek fixtures, you tend to rotate, right? You tend to sort of bring in some of your so-called B team. You'll have your squad players will come in, they'll get some minutes, they'll try and push for a place in the the Premier League 11, and then that's kind of what breeds the competition within the squad. So yeah, it's a tough one, to be honest. I'd love to sit here and say, yeah, we'll be fully sort of laser focused and we've got the advantage here, but I genuinely don't think we do because of the squad depth issue, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, I'm still glad that we did what we did, though, because the players that we let go, I don't think anyone's really gonna miss. I think bar maybe Maitland-Niles, I think he probably could have played a decent part in the rest of our campaign in terms of filling in that midfield, alongside Partey. With, for example, when Jackie gets red card, he could have played against Burnley last time around. Whether we would have got a different result is obviously hypothetical, but I think we probably could have used him more. But apart from that, like Chambers, etc., going, I don't think they would have got much in terms of the minutes. So yeah, we'll see him as fingers crossed.
I think West Ham, are they still in Europa League or no? I don't think so, right?
No, I don't think West Ham or Tottenham are in the European competition. Well, I know Tottenham's not in any cups, are they?
Yeah, they lost, I think.
Tottenham actually got booted from the Conference League, didn't they?
Right.
So they're going to focus on the league, and that's the top 5 positions. Because if you look at it, it's going to be Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, probably top 3. One more position to play for, probably between Tottenham and West Ham. Being realistic, I would say maybe Arsenal do something, but
that 4th spot is really between West Ham, Man U, Arsenal, and Tottenham. And when you look at the table, table's a bit skewed, right? Because it'll show maybe 3 or 4 point gap, but then Tottenham, who are I think 7th,
the games played, yeah,
we've got like 3 or 4 games in hand on West Ham.
Yeah.
So if they win all their games, they're shooting for top 4. And it sounds easier said than done, but at the same time, they've got a manager who seems to, he's got a proven Premier League record, right? He knows what he's doing, and he might not have the squad that he wants, but he's got a very clear idea of how he wants the team to play. If he can get them on side, if he can get them playing the way he wants and start churning out results, then I think unfortunately they're a very real candidate for that 4th spot.
Yeah, and also the thing is actually looking at the fixture list. I know in the sort of United fandom, we're looking at our March and we're playing all the big teams in March, like back to back. So that's why we were quite hopeful about this. But we got a nice little run now. We've got Burnley. We've got some easy fixtures now. But when it hits to March, it's going to be tough. So if we don't get a run of fixtures now, it looks like top 4 is going to be very difficult to get. I don't know what it looks like for Arsenal. I think you mentioned earlier that you've got a tough run of fixtures coming up. I think that's really the biggest factor. especially when you've got these piling on double game weeks and all of this. It's just,
Yeah,
this makes it very difficult to predict how everything's going to finish up.
yeah. It does make it difficult, and it makes it hard to make any real predictions because, like you say, with double game weeks, a team can jump 6 points in 1 week, and that might be the difference between 7th and 4th. So
Yeah.
it's it's going to be a tricky one. But I would say, in a way, if United, obviously you say you've got some big games coming up, and you don't necessarily think you'll get good results, but if United do get a good result against someone who's above them in the table, not only will obviously you get the 3 points, but then they won't get 3 points in that fixture, so we end up gaining 6 points in terms of closing that gap. So you look at it positive. Look at the way Shahid looks at the top, the battle for the title, right? Because he's between Man City and Liverpool. There's a sizable gap, but then we look at it in terms of the number of games that they've got to play, and the fact that Liverpool still have to play City. That gap of 9 points could actually be 3 if they win their game in hand and they beat City. And 3 points of a gap between first and second is not massive at all.
Yeah, I feel like City's already won the league, to be honest. No offense for
Honestly, I
Liverpool.
wouldn't be so sure, man. I mean, I think every team's got an off day in them. I mean, to be fair, Shad, he called it when they were going to play Southampton. He said, I think he said it's a bit of an upset there, and they ended up I think they ended up drawing. But that's all it takes, man. It takes one draw here, or maybe a shock 1-0 loss somewhere, and it can be all to play for them. But for us, it's more about the top 4 chat. And yeah, I think it's far from settled at this point. I think anyone who could say that they're shooting for the top 4. I think at the start of the season, you would have said on paper, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, and Man United would make the top 4. But I think United obviously have not performed as well as they were expected to. And even Chelsea, to an extent, have kind of fallen away from where they probably should have been. They were at one point challenging as well, along with Liverpool, but they've kind of had a few results along the way which haven't gone to plan. So yeah, man, 17 games are a long way to go, man. It's not play from this point.
I think I actually think, and it's probably controversial opinion, but I don't think Rangnick's gonna even. I know he's interim boss, but I don't think he's gonna last at United. So there's a whole plan to make him move upstairs. I don't think that's gonna happen. I reckon what's gonna happen end of the season.
Really?
They're gonna bring in Pochettino and just say to Rangnick, thanks but no thanks. It's just like all the things that are happening at the moment, everything in the press you're hearing about. And I don't know if you listen to Rangnick's press conference, you probably don't as rival fans, but he says a lot of telling things, like thing about Lingard, like, oh, he told him to go, but the board basically made him stay, or that he has no idea what's going on. Like all of these kind of statements are subtly basically saying he probably isn't sold the dream what he was expecting. And also the board doesn't seem to have any faith in him. He's not being talked about in terms of who they're looking at as a new manager. You think he'd have a role in assigning that person. He's not getting briefed on any transfers. They're not investing in him. We haven't seen any Rangnick players being brought in. So no plans to either. Declan Rice isn't a Rangnick player. That's a board player. Just everything seems to be, and especially he's a bit too honest as well. They don't like managers like that. Remember with Mourinho, they hated that. Van Gaal, they hated that. They like people like Solskjaer, like even like Pochettino, because he kind of gets on the football and like shuts up about the business side. And I think that's why they're gunning for him. I don't think they like Rangnick, and they don't want also someone to come upstairs and interfere with their little whatever they've got going on. I feel they've got a little boys club as well, and they don't really want someone like Rangnick to go in there and like shake things up. I don't think they want him in that club. But let's see. But my take is I don't think he's going to last.
I guess.
What do you think it will take then? If you don't think that, I mean, I would have thought from the outside, from looking at United, that's exactly what they need in terms of a shake-up at the club, sort of higher up, at sort of board level, director level. They kind of need someone to come in and say, look, this is how you should structure your club. This is how you should run it. This is how you should do, recruitment, etc.
Right.
If Ragnick's not that man, then how do you see United, becoming that force again, where they can legitimately challenge for, top 4 throughout the season and go into the deeper sort of the Premier competitions?
Yeah, when you change the board, like the what Rangnick said in his press conference today before the game, he said United haven't been winning for over 10 years. and there must be a good reason why. That's basically saying if all the managers that have been on United, all different players, and we spent the most in Europe, that came out over the last 10 years in all the top 5 leagues. If all that isn't the reason, then what's the reason? He's basically saying the board is useless. You know, the structure of the club useless. He's gone against the board in that statement, and I think that's quite telling. And I think what basically needs to happen is we need a new CEO. At the moment, I know Edward was gone out, and they've replaced him with who was it? Murta's director of football. They've got a new guy that's basically besties with Edward, but it's not a real change. You need someone from outside, someone like a Rangnick, or someone like even if we brought in Van der Sar or someone that's had a bit more of a different outlook at a team that's grown and done well. Someone that, I like Ajax a lot because I think the way they do business and the way they grow their club, and they've been very.
I heard Overmars is available.
Oh God.
You found that.
Don't need any more controversy. No more of that.
Apparently, he was a really good scout, though.
You're good.
I'm sure he was, but I guess every club has their controversies, right? But I reckon there's a lot of controversies that are out that don't see the light of day. But clearly, the stuff going on in United isn't exactly ideal, right? So,
I guess final thoughts before we head out. I gotta go, but I guess what's your place prediction?
Who me? All right. My honest opinions. I think we'll get top 4. I think we'll get top 4. I think we'll scrape it. But that means who do I think loses out? I think we can beat Tottenham. I don't think Arsenal will get top 4. I think it's between us and West Ham. I honestly think it's us and West Ham. I think West Ham most consistent out of those teams. We're not very consistent, but I think the quality that we've got just has to balance the books. So we've got to be able to get top 4 with that squad.
That's gonna be a shame if they're in Europa League and Ronaldo's in Europa League. Like, come on, man.
Leave. Stan wants him at PSG apparently, and it's probably a better move. Like, to be honest, I'm a Ronaldo fan. I don't think it was a good move for him to come to United. To be honest.
Yeah.
It's sad to say he's a United fan, but he should have gone elsewhere.
It's not the right player for this type of team.
Yeah. He should have gone to Man City. Man City, like the service he'd be getting from KDB, Foden, Mahrez. Oh, can you imagine? It would hurt, but for him, wow. Oh, unbelievable.
What about you, Azeem? What'd you think? I think we get 5th, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to go for 5th, purely on the basis of if we'd managed to get, I don't keep saying this, but if we managed to get a striker in this January window, I would have said top 4. I think we've got enough solidity in the rest of the team. I think it's the core of the team is pretty settled. I think we had someone to help with the goal output. I think we could have clinched top 4. But as things stand, I think it's too much too soon for this current crop of players. I think it's the expectations are a little bit too high on players. I mean, keep in mind it's still the team with the youngest average age in the Prem, right? So it's a lot of expectation on a lot of generally inexperienced players. I mean, some of them have played for maybe a couple of years, whatever. I mean, like Ramsey's got a ton of experience, Odegaard's got a ton of experience. Obviously, Partey's a bit older, but in general, I would say it would be unreasonable to expect them to keep pushing for the rest of the season the way they have done so far. I think that as young players do, they'll have dips in form, they'll have periods of bad patches, etc. But I think getting top 5, I think getting within that sort of top 6 race, I think as long as we secure 5th, even 6th, I would still say is a merits a successful campaign compared to what our expectations should have been, and it gives us a good platform to then look to the summer recruitment and really sort of push forward from there, because it'll give them some kind of positive encouragement that we weren't even really targeting top 4 at this stage, but we were still within reach. We were still only X number of points away. So I think that in itself will still provide a sense of belief. It'll still provide that motivation for them to sort of kick on next season. But I would say I would love top 4, obviously, but I would, realistically speaking, I would say 5th. happy to be proven wrong and get that top four. I mean, Man United expense, obviously.
At the end of the day, yeah. At the end of the day, if you said Aubameyang only had like what he had 3 or 4 goals, I think we would take like top 6.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking forward to the day that United miss out in the top 4 and Leon finishes and changes his WhatsApp profile pic to Salah. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm gonna stick to that, but actually, it was supposed to be a two-way deal, so I didn't get a response on my end of the bargain. But
well, this end of the bargain's now recorded, it's live, so everyone knows about it. So you can't back down now.
If Arsenal get in the top 4 over United, then I'll do that. I'll put
No. If we're not changing the terms here, it's all about United here. United missing the top 4. Big topless Salah on your WhatsApp profile for a month.
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm just looking precarious right now. I'm telling you. Wow.
All right, guys, man. I appreciate you guys coming on, talking to Premier League, and hopefully we'll have maybe a sad Leon or happy Leon, or maybe happy Arsenal fans. We'll see by the end of this season.
Yeah, man. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
All right. Cheers.